Manchester United 2, Brentford 1. Just like United did just over a year ago at home to Brentford, they came back from a goal down to win it by 2-1. Unlike a year ago when McTominay scored twice in stoppage time, it was a little bit more comfortable this time. But just how comfortable? Mark Donaldson alongside Janusz Michallik and Miguel Echegaray. Start with you, Janusz. This was a game of two halves. This was United focusing on not losing in the first half and then realising, hey, that's not us at Old Trafford in the second half. What did you make of the game overall?
A ray of hope. We haven't been here for a while talking about Manchester United, have we? In particular, praising Manchester United. But this is the time. I thought they were very good. Aside from first 15 minutes, I think the rest of the first half was theirs. We'll talk a little bit later, I suppose, about the goal they conceded just before halftime. But as I've said, this was a team that played with purpose, energy, high pressing, something that Erik Ten Hag has been promising us for a long time, and executing with quality, right? I mean, two excellent goals. So look, 2-1 doesn't seem like much for a team that, as we've said, we've criticized for such a long time, and we've been asking for the head of Erik Ten Hag. I think this was an excellent win.
Okay, Elami, let's talk about the Brentford goal. Ethan Pinnock in first half stoppage time. Now, we have to rewind the tape a little bit because earlier in the first half, Matthijs de Ligt hurt himself by heading the knee and giving away a free kick of a Brentford player. So it was a wound that reopened, and when there's blood on the field, with the head wound, he has to go off to get it tended to. So for any Man United fan saying, oh, the referee wouldn't allow him back on, surely this is more on the United medical staff than anybody else, is it not? Because Brentford scored, and whether or not De Ligt would have been marking Pinnock, no one knows.
Yeah, that's the rule of the land. Like he needed service. It needed to come off the pitch because there was blood involved, as you mentioned, and the medical team and the coaching team knew exactly what the rules are. And if you want your player on the pitch, well, you got to get them sorted out as fast as possible. And if you don't have that sorted out, because obviously there was a lot of blood to deal with, obviously, you know, that's something that seriously needs to be taken care of. There is a set piece, there is a corner to be defended. So it's the responsibility of everybody else on the pitch to make sure that everybody's protected and marked. And that did not happen. And that's how Brentford got that goal. There was an opening within that situation. And obviously Brentford took advantage. There is nobody to blame here but Man United in that situation to make sure that it got taken care of. And also, when you defend the corner, you just have to make sure that the most dangerous opponents in the air are taken care of, and that didn't happen.
You're sitting there chuckling, Mr. Michallik.
Well, you know, I was just thinking that a lot of things haven't been working at United on and off the pitch. Apparently, stitches don't work either. But you know, you can't blame the officials. But you know, as you said, but you know who you can blame? You can blame Dalot for initially letting him go, and even more so after that, Casemiro, because he was the free man right there. Didn't win the header. Didn't, you know? I think he saw him coming because I saw him look over the shoulder. So you know, that's what happens there. And you know. You guys are absolutely right. I think it was a silly goal to concede because at that time, you know, 15, 20 minutes ahead of that, that's when United started cooking.
So we're in a situation now that at halftime, it's the post-mortem. It's the Ten Hag's got to go, losing at home to Brentford. This can't continue. And then 45 minutes later, it's Janusz Michallik, Miguel Echegaray saying, okay, hey, praise where praise is due. They got the reaction. We can't keep being like this, where goals are just the wallpaper over a number of cracks. But do you think it was as simple as this, Janusz, that he's gone in at halftime and said, hey, come on, this is not who you are. This is not who we are. Let's see a reaction. Or do you think he's a wee bit more stern and strict? Because he got a reaction within a couple of minutes through Garnacho. So what do you think was happening at halftime? Was it a rant to end all rants, or was it a
no, because I really like what United were doing. Again, the first 15 minutes, clearly, you know, I was making notes, you know, Ten Hag is gone. I'm sure many have been as well, because you know, I mean, Old Trafford has been, you know, a pretty good welcoming center for everybody for the most part. But I think they started playing, say, 15th, 20th minute for the rest of it. I think if you're Ten Hag says, listen, I like a lot what I saw. We can't concede on a set piece just before halftime. That's obvious. But I think if I were him, I wouldn't concentrate on the negative. I don't think he did. I'm just guessing, obviously, here. He just continued to talk. And look, I mean, the key players stepped up, right? I mean, we saw Garnacho, how willing he was to play already in the first half, had, a couple half chances here and there, and he was excellent. But if you look at that first goal, you look at Rashford, how often we've talked about him not delivering. Okay, he didn't score, but that ball, the cross was absolutely excellent. Then you look at that flick on from Bruno Fernandes, the captain, and the way, that was put away by Højlund. So there are a number of chances, but I think most particular, the sort of high pressing, the recovery of the ball, the moment they've lost it, right, in the opponent's half, the gegenpressing, whatever you want to call it, that was there. The way they were setting traps to win the ball high. So my guess would have been that Ten Hag liked what he saw for 20, 25 minutes in the first half, didn't make a lot out of it. But as I've said, those that needed to step up, I think did.
Okay, LME, what you want with a very talented front four, right? You've got Højlund leading the line, you've got Rashford on one side, you've got Garnacho on the right side, and you've got Bruno Fernandes as the 10, right? That's a decent front four, really good front four when they're in forms, but you want them to contribute. And we saw 2 contributions for the first goal when we had Rashford providing for Garnacho, and then we saw the other 2, Bruno with a brilliant flick, and it was so quick that it ensured that his teammate Højlund was onside. And it's a really nice finish. So I'm kind of stuck here because it's easy to give Man United a kicking because they've deserved it. But I'm with Janusz here as well. We can't kind of go from everything's smelly to everything's pelly. It's got to be somewhere in between here. And the front four played their part today, didn't they?
They did. And listen, I want to focus a little bit more on that second goal because that's Ten Hag football. High press. Make Brentford feel really uncomfortable, right? Force the turnover, and then boom, you capitalize. A great flick, as you mentioned, from Bruno Fernandes and Rasmus Højlund to finish. And that's what Ten Hag wants. That's what Ten Hag preaches. So as you pointed out, we have been criticizing this club over and over and over again, and justifyingly so. Justifiably so, because of where they are on the table, because of how many goals they're not scoring, because of their defensive mishaps. And today, they took care of business. And just like Janusz said, I agree. I think at halftime, Ten Hag was like, look, let's just keep going because we're going to end with 23 shots, which is what they did. We've got more possession and we're trying to create chances. We're just not putting them away. Alejandro Garnacho, I thought was phenomenal as the game continued. His 5th goal of the season. Bruno Fernandes got an assist. By the way, a little mention for Licha Martinez, who had to play left back. I thought he did a really good job. And this is a good, smart Brentford side, and they took the lead. You have to give them credit when credit is due, specifically on that second goal, because that's exactly what Ten Hag wants to do. So well done, Manchester United and Erik Ten Hag for coming down from 1-0 down. A silly mistake not to really think quicker when De Ligt was off. But also, once De Ligt came back on in the second and he was better, he played better as well. So this was a collective victory, and we have to give them credit. Well done on those 3 points.
It feels like, Janusz, we're on this kind of precipice with Manchester United, and you make the wrong turn and that's the end. You make the right turn, sliding doors moment, and that's it. Okay, the patience was rewarded. We really seem to be right there. Their next 2 games in the Premier League are away at West Ham, who just concede every single week, and home to Leicester City. So you've got to make hay while the sun shines for United. That has to be 6 points plus the game against Fenerbahce in midweek.
Well, not just. That's why I said the ray of hope, because you need to confirm that, right? This is Manchester United. I don't think anybody's going to get excited after some of that negativity about winning at home at Old Trafford against Brentford, right? I mean, it's Old Trafford, so. The Fenerbahce game, hey, I think Jose Mourinho is waiting for that, right? And even though it's not a Premier League, obviously momentum is important. So first things first, as you said, against West Ham away, West Ham not only losing big today, but losing Mo Kudus, who's by far the best player, or at least it has been this season. So let's just wait and see. But you got to start somewhere. So this was impressive. This wasn't a fluke. this was well constructed, as we've been saying, and you just mentioned LME. A beautiful setup. Even on that second goal, I would add Christian Eriksen, because that's the sort of ball between the lines with a perfect weight that allows Bruno Fernandes to flick that perfectly, right? If that ball isn't played right, that probably doesn't happen. So all the little details, I'm sure, are going to be shown by Erik ten Hag and analytics and all of that. So I think it's good. Let's just wait and see. I still think there's going to be struggles for Manchester United because, 3 or 4 players, but we saw Casemiro going off, maybe an injury. So let's just wait and see. But for today, I was impressed. This was the sort of football that I don't remember seeing this season from them.
And very quick, MD, just like this, the rest of this month in the Premier League, Leicester City, Ipswich Town, Everton, Manchester United, you mentioned West Ham. Manchester United have to take advantage of that. They have to do it because we can't go back 3 steps back if we're taking one step forward. That they have to take care of November because those are winnable matches, no excuses.
So the narrative before this game at LME was pretty much if they lose, and I suppose it's manner of defeat as well. If they lose, then how do you justify another defeat? If they
lose, we were thinking he's gone. I don't care how they lost. If they lose,
okay. So what's the narrative now?
The narrative now is what we just said, which is like, this is a good step forward, a victory. Everybody played their part. Now show consistency, regardless of what you do in Europe, because yes, you want to do well in Europe. As Janusz mentioned, obviously the Jose Mourinho narrative is going to be important. But in the Premier League, now that you're playing with teams that are bottom of the table, lower to mid-table, you have to now take care of business. There is no excuses. If you can do this against a smart team by Thomas Frank and rectify yourself in the second half and play well overall, if you're playing Leicester City, Everton, Ipswich, you have to win and you have to play well. Because what's going to happen if we come back to a Leicester City and it's a last-minute gasp of an equalizer, or they lose 1-0. We're back to square one saying, what is happening? There has to be
hence the question. Yeah, hence the question. Because, Janusz, Man United fans don't want to be in this position. They want a winning team. They don't want to be one bad performance or one bad defeat away from potentially Erik ten Hag being one game away again from the sack. So it's hard to do.
Right.
What do you think?
And here you mentioned, and that's what I take out of this. And I don't know what's going to happen in the end, but what I got out of this game, the biggest thing, right, for me is the question wasn't if Erik ten Hag is a good coach. The question for me was, is Erik ten Hag the right coach for Manchester United? My answer to that has always been up until this point, no. I don't know if I'm convinced, but I saw today just a little bit of that, that what was promised. So that one little detail may be the most important thing to quiet the narrative, at least for just a little bit, right? And where that's going to go, as we mentioned, we're going to have to wait and see. It's not going to convince me that Erik ten Hag is the right one just yet, just because they've won it today 2-1 after losing, 1-0. I think they've gone 7 straight halves without scoring a goal in the first half or something like that. So today, at the very least, we saw what Erik ten Hag has been telling us he wants from Manchester United. That's the biggest detail I get out of this game.
I mentioned that Leicester game. Of course, that's League Cup. Fenerbahce is in Europe. They've got Chelsea coming up as well. For now, for Manchester United, there's no point in looking ahead too far. It's about the next game. And for us, as members of the media, broadcasters and journalists, we don't like it when managers say, I'm going to take one game at a time. It's not good copy. But for United, that's exactly what they have to do right now. Get points on the board, get a reaction to conceding the opening goal against Brentford, and just get that winning mentality back. United got it back today, and they win this one by 2-1 against Brentford at Old Trafford. Bye for now.